hyperkinetic disease, brain damaged, brain dysfunction, defect of moral control, behaviorally disturbed. Before the late 1980s, these were the medical terms that were used to describe people like me. I, for obvious reasons, although I will say defect of moral control sounds a little badass. I prefer neurodivergent. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the word neurodivergent, it's a term for people with a brain that works differently than the norm. So autism spectrum, Tourette syndrome, learning disabilities, and ADHD all fall under the scope of neurodivergent. I wasn't diagnosed as neurodivergent until a couple of years ago when I was 35 years old and I was attempting to finish my undergraduate degree at USC Film School in the middle of a pandemic. It was a great time. I was told that there was no way for me to get a language accommodation so I could graduate without taking a $5,000 neuropsychological exam, which I was forced to do, and then took out a credit card to do. And in that test, I was diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD. Now, if this is the moment that you start thinking to yourself, everyone's getting diagnosed with ADHD these days, or everyone's a little ADHD, I don't get what the big deal is, or even my favorite, I lose my keys all the time. That's what it is, right? I would not blame you for that. I thought that as well before I made this documentary. I never thought how I felt was any sort of neurodivergence. I just thought that I was broken and somehow needed to be fixed before I could be any value to the world. I felt like if I could just stop being stupid or weird, as I've been called my whole life by myself and others, I could just keep my mouth shut long enough to present as normal and everything would be okay. I was relieved when people would say, "But you look so put together and happy," because it meant that I had fooled everyone into thinking that I was a functioning adult somehow. Unfortunately, that made me feel more alone in the long run. The film you're about to see is only one story, my story, but there's many neurodivergent women who, as I have discovered, feel the same way that I do and have been silent for a very long time. It's only 25 minutes, so I can't even begin to get into some of the other issues I found through my research, how ADHD affects adults differently than children, how it affects people in undertreated, marginalized communities, the lack of accessibility to help due to the expenses needed to diagnose and treat, and a whole plethora of other difficult aspects associated with one's socioeconomic background. I'm not a doctor or an expert in science of the human brain, although I'm sure you assumed that I am because of my ladybug sweater. It's so professional. I would like to think, though, that you will watch this story, not so much for the science, but to connect with and feel something, because that's the beauty of being a filmmaker and an artist, right? We get to help you experience things that are going on inside my head. I believe that positive change must start with connection. And I know sharing my story has made me feel much less alone, and I hope that it can do the same for others. I was told that I have 3 to 5 minutes to introduce the film, but fun fact, a symptom of ADHD is time blindness. So I have no clue how long I've been up here. It could be tomorrow. I hope it's not, and I'm going to hope that I haven't taken 30 minutes of your time and that this isn't a 5-hour movie. So thank you and enjoy.